Hey guys, welcome back to Nikke. In today's video, we're going to be doing my top 5 burst 1 units. We're going to do a series of these. We're going to do burst 1, burst 2, and burst 3. Also, we did have the giveaways from about a week ago. I have put the winners up on a community post, so check that out. The winners are there and the details of how to get into it. But we did also just hit 90,000 subscribers on this channel. So for this series of videos, we're going to do a $50 giveaway in each of these videos. So basically, this one is going to be a $50 giveaway. To be in it, just leave any comment, be subscribed to the channel, and you go into the draw, and I'll do the draw about a week away on a random comment picker and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just be subscribed, leave a comment, tell me I suck, whatever you want, it is fine. It will enter you into the draw, and away we go. So now that with that out of the way, let's get into my top 5 burst 1 characters. The first couple, if you've been playing the game, will be very obvious, but I wanted to look at some others and do a bit of a deeper dive into some of the other ones as well. But number 1 is by far going to be Lita. Now, I can do a deep dive in this. I'm shooting this off the top of my head of what the CN post was, but basically Lita has a massive attack buff. We'll look at her other effects in a sec, and from what the CN post was basically that attack scales a lot better than crit damage in this game at the moment, based on the way they have weak spots, because I believe it is, and don't quote me, I can do a whole deep video on this if you guys want me to, and let me know. But basically weak spot hits gonna deal about, I think it was like 200% damage, and then critical damages on critical attacks on weak spots deal like 250%. So it's like the scaling just doesn't matter. You may as well just stack as much attack as you can. So that is why Lita is going to be in number 1 when you compare her to Volume, who we'll look at in a sec. But you know, if formulas change and stuff like that, they could definitely balance out a bit more. But let's take a look at Lita's kit. This is entering into full burst. So basically, she's one of the 3 units in the game that we have at the moment, being herself, Volume, and also Dollar. They're the 3 units that reduce cooldown time of burst skills, and basically it's really nice because you can chain it and it stacks up and you get like really reduced burst skills. So that's really nice. If you don't have either Lita, Volume, or Dollar, you'll find that normally when you get round to being able to use your burst for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th time, all that stuff, you're actually waiting a couple seconds. So just having one of those guys, Lita being the best one at the moment, will just reduce that time. So that is absolutely fantastic. And on top of that, if that wasn't enough to reduce the cooldowns, you also get additional buffs, maximum ammunition capacity up 45% for 5 seconds. Really handy when you're going into a burst phase and you want to just deal as much damage as possible and you don't want to waste time reloading. Absolutely fantastic. Then we got critical damage, and then we have attack buff as well. Really solid effects. These abilities are just completely amazing, and they sort of make the top tier support units because of that. Then we get the one that we recover the cover. So if you're ducking behind cover and that's taking damage, you recover that. That's actually very important in some stages when you are manualing, so you don't get clobbered. So it's not too bad. And then, like I said, the active skill on a 20-second cooldown, giving you an attack buff of 66% for 5 seconds. Really huge, moving into those burst windows where you want to deal as much damage as possible. It's going to apply to your burst 3 user's burst skill, meaning that will deal more damage. It's just an absolutely fantastic effect, and that is why Lita is the best burst 1 in my humble opinion. So moving on from that, I pretty much gave it away, obviously, but the next one is going to be, if I can find her, is going to be Volume. Volume, very similar to Lita. Like I said, it's just that she does crit, whereas Lita does the attack buff. Now, this one, she affects self. She's also a bit selfish in this ability, and it's not the greatest. She is an attacker compared to Lita being a supporter, meaning that she does have high base attack, so she can have some damage potential, but it's still not crazy. But she does give herself attack buff, which is a bit selfish, and she needs to kill an enemy for it, which, you know, doesn't really help in bosses either. So that's where she sort of falls down in that one. Then as we move on, activating when entering full burst. So this is her ability similar to Lita's. We got all the cooldown reduction time of burst skills, which is fantastic. And then her additional effects are going to be critical damage, and critical damage. So she's going to stack a ton of critical damage later into the fight. And then she's also going to give, with her 20-second cooldown burst skill, the crit rate. So she just stacks the crit rate, stacks the crit damage, and says go ham for 5 seconds, team. But like I said, the problem is at the moment it appears, and I haven't done this testing, this is based off what I've seen from CN people putting stuff together, because I'm not smart enough, is that the crit damage just doesn't scale as well as attack, whereas in most other games, crit damage is way better than attack, but because we have these weak points, it's like they haven't balanced the game for it. So that is why the critical style of volume doesn't quite match up to the attack style of Lita. So that is volume. Moving on into the next unit. If we go back one more, we have, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? How can I not see her? It's a very small list of units. Peppa. It's because I got her and it was a different color. You guys get it. Anyway, so Peppa, I'm thoroughly impressed with Peppa. I don't have either of the other two burst 1 units. I do have Peppa, and I find her to be actually really solid, and strangely does a really solid amount of damage. So when we take a look at her abilities, she is a shotgun user. Really nice for the close range stuff. Obviously, shotgun's horrible at range. But in my team, I don't have any shotgun or SMG users anyway, and so when we do get close range, she's actually really nice coverage for that close range enemies. Activates when the last bullet hits the target, affects one ally with the lowest HP, restores some HP. You know, it's my healer in the team. It's not too bad. It's a decent little amount that she can heal once we stack her buffs, which we'll look at in a sec. Moving on from that, still in the same ability, activates when the last bullet hits the target, affects all allies. Refresh Heart, HP potency up 6.53%, stacks up to 5 times, lasts for 15 seconds. Now, the key thing for this is the stacking and the 15 seconds, because when we look at her burst skill, that's when it really comes into play. The next one being Vitamin Power, affects one enemy unit with the highest attack, deals damage equal to 160% of attack, and reduces their attack. It can kind of help. This is where she starts getting some more damage, and once we look at her burst skill as well, so she's going to reduce the attack of enemies. Handy on bosses. It's not a great amount, so it's not crazy, but we are getting some extra damage out of her there. And then on this final one, which is her burst skill, affects one enemy unit with the highest attack. We're going to get a decent damage multiplier of 1237, so this is where she can deal some really nice damage. Obviously, it's not as impactful as the buffs that you're getting from Leader and Volume, and that's why she doesn't quite match up to them, but it's still not bad if you need like a tech healer but don't want to sacrifice too much damage and you don't have one of those godly units. Then as we go past that, increase the stack count of buffs by 1. Now, I'm not sure if this is bugged at the moment or not, but you know, increasing the stack count of buffs when you're trying to stack up, when you look at something like a Scarlet, you know, you got a 5 stack buff. It's nice getting that extra stack just when you go into your first burst round so that you can get extra damage out of it. And then this one, this is what I talked about based on her first skill with the 5 stacks. Activates when Refreshed Heart is fully stacked, affects all allies, restores HP equal to 27.22% of the caster's max HP. Because this is on a 20-second cooldown, once you've got that stacked and you can keep it stacked, it's nice because every time you go into a burst rotation, you are going to be reducing those cooldowns, which, I mean, you are going to be healing, which is going to be really nice. So that is Peppa. I think just an all-round solid unit, brings the healing and brings some damage, which when you don't have one of the other two, or you're just desperate in desperate need of a healer for a stage and you don't want to use your other flex spot for one, she's not a bad option. Really solid unit. Like I said, I'm using her as my main at the moment. The next one I want to look at is going to be a bit of a hot take from me. I don't see many people talking about it. I still think she's absolutely fantastic, and that is going to be Miranda. Now, let's take a look at Miranda's kit. She's got honestly decent team buffs. If we look at this one, activates after landing 30 normal attacks, affects all allies. She is an SMG user. So, you know, she's going to fire off 30 rounds pretty quickly. They go through pretty quick. But we get hit rate up for 5 seconds. Now, hit rate is especially nice for shotgun users. So if you got some shotguns in there, it's going to be really nice. That's who benefits the most out of this from what I can see at the moment. So not too bad. And that's going to be pretty decent uptime based on the rate of fire that the SMGs have. Then we've got her passive, activates at the beginning of full burst, affects all allies, crit damage up 32.99% for 10 seconds. Now, like I said, crit damage doesn't scale as much of attack, and that's why, you know, she's not quite in that top tier. If that ever flips and crit damage becomes good, it's going to be massive because this is for a 10-second duration. But then we go into this one, and this is a 20-second cooldown, affects one ally with the highest attack. So this is where I think she's absolutely fantastic, especially for the early game. A lot of people, you know, if you've got one good attacker and then you've sort of got like the filler units that you're not really caring about, the attacker's got, you know, maybe you've only got one cube unlocked, you've got the best set of gear, and that attacker is doing like, you know, probably 80% of your damage in fights, 70 to 80%. She's going to only buff that unit, but that unit is going to get massively buffed with a 40% attack buff for 10 seconds and also the crit damage of an extra 56% for 10 seconds. Now, this is where Leader, you see how broken Leader is. She's like a 60-something% attack buff for the whole team. I think it's only for 5 seconds though, which falls off. But these are two really nice buffs for 10 seconds for the main damage dealer you're going to have. Now, in the end game, we're talking 6 to 12 months away, probably longer even for free-to-play players. She might drop off drastically because then you've got full teams that you're really fully invested, fully balanced out. Maybe you're getting more even spread damage. But at the moment, you know, if you pull a Scarlet or a Haran and she's buffing them, you can do massive damage. So that is Miranda. She's a hot take from me. I think she's absolutely fantastic. I use her a lot on the test server and absolutely love her kit. So the last one we have in here, and because this is my last unit, it doesn't mean that everything else is bad. Things like Emma, fantastic healer. I probably won't mention healers too much. The one I'm mentioning is a healer because it's more niche. You know, like Emma, Mary, these guys, healers are just great in tech spots. So like those guys you can sub in if you have them when you need healing. You know, in things like the simulation room and stuff like that, you need healing. So having healers is going to be the way. But honestly, Peppa is like fills that role and she does the damage as well, which I really love. Even though something like Emma might have higher healing capacity raw, often you also want to bring some damage. But the next one I want to talk about is just going to be Rapunzel. Now, she is a pilgrim, so harder to get, but I wanted to give her a bit of a spotlight because I think the unique thing that I really like about her is how much passive healing she has. Now, people often get turned off by her because she is you can't see it on my game. For some reason, my game does not show cooldowns, but she is a 60-second cooldown, which makes a lot of people look at it going, well, you're not going to get a burst heal that often, so it's pretty bad. But I think where she excels is that she heals passively with her other two abilities, which then allows her to save this 60-second cooldown ability and only use it when an ally dies and you need to resurrect an ally. So this is really cool. So I'm just going to jump to the burst skill quickly. Like I said, it's a 60-second cooldown. Yes, it can heal, but affects one fallen ally and resurrects them with 81.67% HP, obviously at max skills. Activates when HP falls below 30%. Affects all enemies, stuns for 1 second. So like this is a real clutch thing. Maybe you're getting into a snowball effect. The enemies kill one of your guys. Everyone's getting low. She's going to give you a little bit of a safe haven with 1 second. It's not much, but she's going to bring back that ally and heal everyone off. So it's like a really nice burst skill, like for real clutch boss, like campaign boss situations, I feel. I think she can just work really well in that. Then, like I said, her passive healing activates when attacking with full charge. She is a rocket launcher, so she's going to get that full charge very often with every shot. AI is pretty good at doing fully charged, and it's going to recover the HP of the 3 allies with the lowest health by 4%, which may not seem like much, but when you're actually firing those pretty quickly, it's a really rapid snowball of healing. It's not a burst heal, but if you take a good chunk of damage and then like the enemies aren't just keep wailing the damage in, it's a really good way to go ahead and spread that out. Also, if you pair her with units that maybe spread the damage amongst allies, something like Yulha, you know, then you can spread that damage, meaning the one unit that would have got nuked no longer gets nuked. It spreads between everyone, and then she's going to gradually heal them up because she is healing 3 allies at a time. And then we have this one, affects 2 allies with the highest attack. Now, this one is 20-second durations, and because I don't have cooldown times on my version of the game for some reason, Pridewind labels this as a 15-second cooldown, which is more than 100% uptime. You can't get more than 100, but you get what I mean. It's a 15-second cooldown, it lasts for 20 seconds, so even if she gets stunned, it's still going to apply. But you're going to get the max HP up and the HP potency up, which it's not the craziest buff. It's not crazy, but the uptime is so strong that makes it quite valuable, and it's the highest attack, which are normally going to be squishier type units because they're not normally going to be your attackers, and they're going to be the ones that you really want to keep alive. So I just think her kit is absolutely amazing. Great tech unit if you pick her. She's not going to be splashable in your team, but I feel like she fills a role that no one else in the game can, which is a resurrection, and I feel like for that she needs to get a mention in this. But anyway, guys, that is my top 5 burst ones. Leave your list down below. Don't forget just to leave a comment anyway if you want to go into the draw. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.